What is sexual safety to you?
A lot of women will perform as opposed to really being in the moment and experiencing a beautiful exchange with their partner. And they won't say anything because they fear that love being taken away.
My nigga, everything is love, but that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.
I like where the hoes better.
Jimmy, want a taste of your chocolate cake? I'll give you $1 if you know what it's from.
Oh, we recording for real right now?
You're recording. Oh, look at me so comfortable on our new couch that I got for $198 from IKEA.
Are we going to include this whole last rant?
Yeah.
We got to include that.
Welcome to episode 2 of God, It's Me Again. I'm Candyss Love.
I'm your boy, Brickcitibuddha.
And before we begin, like the damn video, comment, and subscribe.
That's how you feel today? You feeling froggy today.
Yeah, because y'all like the videos anyway, so just like the video.
And she got a strap,
Bars.
so, you know, Houstonites, they always... They always packing out here, bro. I know it's Houstonians. I know it pisses you off. I like to see you perturbed. Oh, give us one of your words. Okay, so before we get into today's topic, let me get that right.
Okay.
Come on now. Sounding like Steve Harvey and Shannon Sharp put together.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby. So one of the things that you've been transparent about.
Yeah.
And it actually does correlate to the topic of safety that we're going to get to in a second.
Yeah.
But just feeling safe enough to let me know that I'm cloudy. I'm foggy. I'm forgetting what I want to say. Like, you know, we do lives. We do a lot of things outside of this podcast that you got to be quick-witted, sharp with your words, and that can bring a certain amount of pressure when, as a woman, you got so much going on in your system that sometimes it can affect your acumen, your ability to conjure the word when you need it. And he was like, I'm finding myself in the midst of what I'm saying and not knowing where I'm going or what word I want to use. So one of the things you've been working on, she got herself a dictionary, right?
Yeah.
She owed me like 19 words at this point, but the deal is that every day she's supposed to just look up 3 words, be able to use the word in a sentence. So I'm going to put you on the spot. We need one right now.
Lament.
Nah.
They ain't never heard it before.
No, I'm
That's
talking
all
about
I
something
got.
I ain't heard from you just yet.
I know, but I haven't looked up my words today.
All right, I'll let you rock
And
with me.
I want to give a little preface because I think a lot of people, this will help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So with my addiction to alcohol in the past, I'm going on 7 years sober now. But I do believe that did some, I don't want to use the terminology of damage, but I do think that it veered my memory in a different way to where now I have to rely on the absence of words. I have to just rely on vulnerability and transparency and acknowledge that I lost my train of thought. Can you repeat the question? And I have to be more open and vulnerable about the fact that there's many times where I just lose my memory. And it's to the point that it can be scary. I'm having conversations with people, whether it's a important conversation or whether it's just a basic conversation where mid-conversation I have no idea where I'm going. Words I cannot, right now it just happened. I'm searching for a word, and before, words would just come to me.
Is it scary?
It's very scary. Yeah, it's scary because it's like it's hard to not have your memory when you've had your memory. And I've always been sharp with my words. I've always been sharp with my comebacks.
You still are.
I still am. But I recognize there are certain moments where it's not like that at all. And you've had to step in certain moments and help me on calls with clients where you see that I'm struggling just to formulate a sentence and you step in and just take over. So I chose to get a dictionary so I could start practicing words, and maybe that is what is necessary and needed for me to fill in those blanks, but also remembering that words can be useless many times. So when my memory is really struggling, it's also an invitation for me to shut the hell up be okay with silence, be okay with
I
stillness.
haven't looked at it like that.
Yeah, it's an invitation to not fill space with words, to allow space to be empty, and to not judge those moments, and not, I guess, like, have a degrading view on what it's like to not be able to finish your sentence. So having the dictionary, coming up with words or reading new words, I feel like it's slowly building my confidence back in an area that I was extremely confident. When you lose thought mid-sentence and you're trying to have an intelligent conversation, it can bring about insecurity if I'm not grounded in my vulnerability and my transparency
And your
about it.
authenticity.
Yeah.
And that that's big, because I think that kind of prefaces our approach to the space. You know, we've been on a lot of platforms. We watch a lot of different platforms where it's over the top. They're trying to make sure you watch. They're trying to make sure they get their views. And now me having going on tonight's conversation,
Yeah.
getting the feel for the verbal exchange that happens and how quick you got to be in the moment. We kind of been conditioned, especially in this podcast era, to just shoot from the hip as soon as the question is asked.
Yes.
And I watched Kanye do this. When Kanye kept getting in trouble for just him being his authentic self, he kind of shrunk a little bit. Now, it was smart, because he went for about a year or a year and a half where people would ask him a question. He would be silent.
Yep.
He would feel into it. He would think about it. And then he would verbalize his answer. And that's beautiful as well. A lot of yogis do that too. But I feel like that was even in response to him just being his authentic self.
Yeah.
So being able to have that balance and not be under the pressure of, I need to entertain y'all. We're not here to entertain y'all. We're here to be ourselves. If you are entertained enough to watch this content, beautiful. We able to meet in the middle. But I think that speaks to what you've been talking about a lot lately, which is just being authentically yourself, whatever that looks like. So with that being said, with the context you gave, we need lament. We'll let you rock with lament today.
Okay, so lament means, oh Lord, I'm being put on the spot now. Damn. Lament is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow. And I think a lot of people often feel like they are in a grieving process, but it's really lament, because it's like that passionate expression of sorrow, that deep crying, the deep weeping is a little bit deeper than just feeling grief itself. So do I have to use it in a sentence?
No, you kind of just use it in a sentence.
Okay.
So I think you off the, what y'all think? We good? We good. And look at how slick I'm about to pull us into the topic. Is that a pause?
I was wondering if it was going to be
I
a
said
pause.
topic. If I just said pull us in, we would have been out of here.
Yeah, I think you good.
Okay.
I think you good.
With that being said, you talked about the intense expression or passionate expression of grief, right? Being that I've been on tonight's conversation, that's another one of the things that has come from us putting our podcast on hold to allow it to germinate into what it is now.
And congratulations on that.
I appreciate you, right? You have a lot to do with that. And being on a conversation that went super viral. Now, mind you, I shot 16 episodes. We shot 48 episodes in a weekend. Kind of what gave me the impetus to come back, have the conversation with you. And now we had like the streamlined focus and how to approach this. So I took a lot from just that experience at large. Gave a lot of beautiful wisdom in the conversations, but the one that went crazy, which probably a lot of y'all have seen, which was with the brother Cooley. If y'all don't know of him, I'm not gonna go super deep into his history, but he's a toxic masculinity viral figure at this point. I've heard him say some dope stuff too. Like, it ain't just, I don't look at anybody as a monolith. I've heard him say things that I agree with, but in this particular experience, he was there to get a viral moment. We know how big tonight's conversation is as a platform, as an app in the Black and brown community for relationships. So, you know, some people could see that as, all right, this is my moment where I'm going to really take myself to the next level. I feel like he came into that with that.
Yeah.
And the conversation went viral about him kind of invalidating pretty much the majority of the Me Too movement, right? I'm not going to rehash everything. Y'all could go on my page on tonight's conversation. And he pretty much said, I don't believe the vast majority of women, and men included, in the Me Too movement. And it brought up a conversation of just general sexual safety.
Yeah.
Right? The conversation sparked so much commentary on social media. I'm still looking through people commenting giving their stories and giving their transparency. Shout out to my brother Ace, who runs Tonight Conversation, who had a beautiful moment of transparency on the episode, as well as my brother Dimitri. They had a male Me Too movement, Me Too moment right in that episode. Beautiful, tough to watch, but beautiful episode. So a lot of people were saying, okay, these platforms, this conversation is necessary, but what are we going to do about this? How are we going, or when are we going to get to the conversation of stopping some of this, right? So we want to dig into the conversation of sexual safety. And I want to ask you first and foremost, as a woman, as a married woman, as a formerly single woman, what is sexual safety to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would say for me, sexual safety is the capacity and ability to have my voice heard. I think specifically for me, but I think I can speak for a lot of women, no matter how bold we are, how masculine we may be or presenting in times, we may speak our minds in certain things, but there's a lot of areas where we hold back. There's a lot of areas where there's an insecurity to speak up or a fear to speak up. And a lot of times when it comes to the sexual dynamic in relationships, for myself and a lot of women, or myself in the past and a lot of women, we did not speak up because it would be fear of love being taken away. So if I acknowledge that I don't like something or something isn't maybe up to par with what I would like to feel as far as pleasure, a lot of women will perform as opposed to really being in the moment and experiencing a beautiful exchange with their partner. And they won't say anything because they fear that love being taken away. And there's so many aspects that create a environment where I didn't and other women don't feel comfortable. And I think it first starts with the voice, the throat chakra, being able to fully express yourself, being able to trust that you're going to be heard. Even if it's not even speaking up in a sexual manner, but speaking up and saying, I didn't like how you spoke to me yesterday. Or speaking up and saying that I need help around the house with the chores. When you're able to say those things, you're able to flourish because now you feel safe in your expression. You feel fully accepted. You feel like a person is your partner and is working with you. And so those micro options of ways you can communicate just allow you to open up a lot more, because when you hold something in, you start to constrict and you start to feel fear, then you start to ruminate, then you start to project into the future. And it doesn't really allow a woman to flourish in her essence. It doesn't allow a woman to flourish in the essence of feeling sensual. And so I feel like what makes women feel safe in their sexuality is first having safe environments to where they can express themselves and be heard, and that way she can move in her sensuality in a healthy, balanced way. There's many other things, but that's self-expression. And to the point, it said that, a lot of people say love is the highest frequency. Well, scientists did tests to see what frequencies emit from a person when they experience love. And they found that self-expression is 4,000 times more powerful than love. So self-expression is also extremely powerful. But then it goes into that other quote. It's not a quote, it's a scientific study. And they followed 10,000 women around for 4 years, 10,000 women in marriages for 4 years. And they found that the women who do not express themselves in their marriages are 4 times more likely to die than the women that do express themselves. And so what it shows is that the issue is not that women are just unhappy. It shows that they have a problem with authenticity. They have a problem with showing up as their truest selves. And an individual has to do the work to understand what is beneath that. But to have a study that says you are more likely to die just based on self-expression alone shows that women particularly are struggling in areas that they aren't quite admitting out loud.
And yeah, I mean, women have been conditioned from rip to just, kind of shrink when it comes to sex. And even before we actually get to the sex itself, what leads up to that, like you said, the intangibles, and that was kind of the second part that you kind of just dove into naturally. But the intangibles that lead to that sacral chakra staying open, staying juicy, your feminine essence, being able to remain unbridled, being able to play and be silly around the house. A lot of times I feel like men don't often include that as far as the sexual relationship. Like a lot of times when I work with couples, I'll ask them to grade themselves on how they show up sexually, physical sexual intimacy and non-sexual intimacy. Most of the grades for the men from their own mouth, like, bro, I'm failing on that. I don't even know how to do that. And we'll get to some of that in a minute. I guess from my end, what makes me feel most safe in the sexual space, watching so much porn, when I was younger, and that being my template, most men's template for how we are also supposed to perform.
Yeah.
There's always a quote unquote payoff at the end. There's always a money shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, and being able to engage with you, being open to learning, you being open to being authentic and telling me at certain points in uncomfortable conversations that you may need something different, you may need something more, you may need something less. For us to still be able to go to those arenas and me not being held to a perception of needing to be perfect. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Men feel like we got to be perfect in the bedroom. We feel like we are going in to conquer, like it's a conquest. Yeah. Whether we are married to a woman or we just engaging in that way, we feel like it's our job to get both of us to where we're going. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a certain bravado and perceived strength that may come with that. We used to literally say when we would talk about our sexual escapades back in the day, bro, I put up 40 tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like I put up them Kobe numbers tonight, right? So there is energy that can be drawn on that's dope, that is valid. But to be able to be in concert with you, to not have that pressure of perfection, for you to be open and have enough grace with me to have those conversations, for us to still be able to have fun, right? For us to be able to grow, for me to be my complete self. Like I'm quiet. Outside of this podcast, if you know me personally, I'm a pretty quiet person. Yeah. I'm a listener. When I get in that space up there, I'm a talking ass nigga, right? And for you to come from a culture where that's not something that you was particularly comfortable with, not something that you did, you allowed me to do that shit anyway. Yeah. And it was years before you hit me back with it. Now she a talking ass Tammy, as she would say, right? So to be able to have that learning curve, that grace, that openness, for me to also be authentic and not have to be perfect, I think for me, that's safety. Also to not be judged. Because men got to understand, you're not going to get everything right every time, bro, in the sexual arena. You're not going to put up 50 every night. There's going to be some nights all you got is a 12 hump slumping you, like we used to say in college, bro. Like, and for a woman to love you enough to not have to mandate, nigga, you got to get me there every single time, because this is the basis of our relationship. If you ain't got nothing else, of course, she gonna mandate, I need this every single time for me to be able to see the heavens. We got shit going on, right? We got emotions we navigating through, things we need to create. Sometimes we don't even have sex for large periods of time. When we get back, a nigga rusty. You know what I'm saying? So you just being able to see me in these ways beyond what I can perform in these moments, that has felt like safety to me. And I feel like has made me a better listener in the sexual arena, which has made me a better lover. And I feel like I'm continuing to grow in that. I feel like we both are, from that openness. You got anything in response?
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out where I want to go first. I'll
Take
go.
Your time.
Thank you, babe. I do acknowledge that for sure. I think that's brought us closer. And I think as well, these are conversations that couples don't have. Yeah. If you were to say to me, like you have said to me, I would like for you to start initiating more, that would kind of shut a person down. If a woman were to say whatever she had to say, it would shut the man down. And I love that in our marriage, we choose to just face it head on and...
Pun intended.
We face it head on. I didn't have to run it back, but I did. But we just really allow ourselves to work with whatever we need to work with to meet each other's needs. And I had a lot of fear of initiating. I had fear of just starting it off, and I just didn't.
No.
There's a lot of innocence there, but it's a lot of fear there as well. And I performed all of my past relationships in sexual scenarios. I was always performing. I never got anything out of it. I never had an orgasm. I never enjoyed the experience. But the experience itself was just something that allowed me to feel closer to the person, and something that I also thought would make them feel closer to me. So I did it. And so now being in a marriage where I have a voice, it took time for me to actually use my voice and ask for what I wanted. But first I had to actually recognize, what did I want? I didn't know what felt good to me. I didn't know how to direct you, because I didn't know how to direct myself. I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know what my needs were. And it required me to do some self-reflecting and self-discovery in myself to see what allows me to feel open sexually, what allows me to feel sensual, what allows me to feel sexy. And even when it's not a part that you are playing, how can I cultivate a sexy environment within my own vessel? So when I do show up with you, I'm already loose. I'm already feeling more in my sensuality, which is why I've bought so much lingerie the last few days, because I recognize that there are moments where I feel sexy, but if I start to gain weight, if my skin changes, if I start to get acne on my skin, there will be a fluctuation in how I feel sexy, which means there'll be a fluctuation in how I show up in our sexual encounters, which means that it'll be less opportunity for me to initiate. So my sexuality, or my sexual health in regards to our marriage, in probably 80% of that has to do with how I take care of myself, which was kind of a hard pill to swallow. And then the other aspect, the other aspect of that is the mental load of responsibility. And recognizing that when I'm feeling like I have a lot of things that I have to be responsible for, a lot of places I have to put my energy, a lot of places I have to just think and have thought and plan, it completely takes me out of my sexual energy, my sensual energy. It's difficult for me to even be affectionate. It's difficult. Like, you had to remind me the other day, I know you in your bag, but when you come in the house, you still greet your husband. You know, you still give me a hug, acknowledge that I'm here. I love you. I want to share affection with you. And when I'm working and when there's a mental load that I have, I don't see anything and I don't see anybody. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me finish this last part. And when I don't see anybody, you suffer because you're not getting the attention that you deserve. If it was vice versa, I would feel the exact same way. And so I think what I'm learning is to also ask for things that I may need. If there's mental load, like with our podcast, going to get the couch from the storage, it was like, I want to go get the couch from the storage, and you're like, oh well, we can do it in the morning. But I had to use my words and say, that's not energy that I want to have to expend tomorrow. And I didn't have to say anything else. He was like, okay, you want to put your clothes on, and we went to get it. And I think a lot of women are thinking about so many things. There's so many energetic tabs open in our brains that we're trying to focus on, and we're thinking about stuff that's happening probably 2 weeks out. And that is taking away from the energy that we have to show up safe in our unions. And sometimes we need our men to know that and tell us to go sit our ass down somewhere.
It's a lot to dive into there, and I guess I'll start backwards. The mental load piece, right? I think that's something a lot of men miss, because men are so no frills sexually. Like, we passed 10 minutes probably.
Yeah, but we still can't curse. We're at 24. We still can't curse for the kids that's watching.
So men gonna want to hunch. If you got the bonnet on, if you got the sweatpants, like, of course we want y'all to be dolled up and we want top shelf. If it's like a long-term relationship and we rock with each other, it don't matter. If it's up, we up, right? So I think there is sometimes a incongruence. That's a nice word. There's an incongruence. There's a level of non-equanimous perception that we are no frills, But on the other end, for y'all to be in that space, y'all need a lot more than we do to feel like authentic in that space, right? So when you mention that about the mental load, I think one of the first violations, one of the first examples of sexual non-safety a lot of times in relationships is men to just be thinking, well, it's been a minute, right? Depending on what y'all rhythm and regimen, if y'all somebody or a couple that's doing it 5-6 times a week, right? And a week go by, y'all did it twice. He feeling away probably, right? He probably feels the need to check in like, all right, what's going on? And he feels like, damn near, you owe me, right? We together, you my woman. I've heard this from so many different men, like, yo, we together. If she want to keep me from stepping out, this is something I need, right?
Yeah.
And we tend to overlook, like, yeah, you may be paying the bills 100%, 75, 50, whatever. You doing your part, your masculine role part. But when we don't look at that mental load and what that does to y'all, because when I talked about it on the episode with Cooley, the part that went viral, women are navigating so much data emotionally. And a lot of times men don't appreciate that emotion still contains data that needs to be navigated, more so than just a thought. Emotion moves a lot slower than thought. So it ain't just what you're dealing with emotionally in that moment. It's from yesterday. It's from last week. It's from what you ain't processed last year. And anything can trigger these things. So the mental load aspect is something I feel like a lot of men tend to overlook. If we factor that in more, the moment the other day, not the one you mentioned, you was over here working on all of it. Ladies and gentlemen, she took 3 days straight to download the skill set to be able to do what we're doing right now on a higher level. Shout out to our brother, Michael, Sharpshoot Media. He came and helped a little bit. And even he was like, bro, she downloaded 3 days of information in an hour. I ain't never seen nothing like it, right? But I knew she was in her bag. I knew she was going to be scoop bald head for the next 3 days.
My hair ain't look like this
I knew the sweatpants was going to be on. I understood that. But it's funny that you've been doing more like staying aesthetically pleasing to the highest degree for me, for yourself as well. You're always beautiful to me regardless, but you've been putting a lot of effort forth in that, right?
Yeah.
And I just saw you doing what you was doing, and I just had the thought like, bro, when the last time you threw it on in the house for no reason for her? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I got in the shower, I got my little curls going, I put on one of the little shirts that she liked me wearing, I decked out jewelry, everything. And I had came out from a session. She was gone before I got dressed. I was decked out in the session over, I come out, and she looked back. And normally if she see me looking good, oh, babe, you looking good.
Yeah.
She looked back and went right back to what she was doing. I'm like, damn, okay. And I went over there, I'm like, I got dressed for you. She's like, oh, babe, you look good, you smell good, and all this other stuff. And then she went right back to what she was doing, right? So in that moment, I had to navigate mental load, right? I had to navigate, and sexual energy was flowing through me. I never do anything just for the end result of sex. But sexual energy was flowing through me, right? And also I just wanted to kind of reciprocate what you have been doing for me. I have never had that thought to look nice for your wife while you're in the house.
Yeah.
I was able to give you the grace of, bro, she in her bag. She trying to make sure we get right. Who cares if she don't give you the response she would have normally given you? She gave you something. Oh, you look nice. That's it. Go back to her stuff. And I'm thinking that's it, right? I go take my stuff off. I get regular like, yo, she not in that bag. That's cool. By the end of the night, she throwing the lingerie on. I thought my efforts was in vain. I'm like, all right, this ain't the day for that. She not in that space. And after all that mental load she did, we have been able to navigate these spaces together in a way where in those 2 moments, we was able to understand, have the grace, but still have the adjustability and the malleability and the respect for the other person's needs to go through all those avenues in those 2 moments. I ain't going to say what happened after the lingerie, but this is all part of what accommodating for sexual safety can do for the way y'all are actually able to go into that space.
Yeah, I think it's so important because, one, you had a lot of wherewithal to see the time and the place and to see where I was mentally. And I recognize that in a lot of relationships, specifically with our clients, you'll have a partner, and not just the men, it's the women as well, who are like, I don't really care what you got going on.
Yeah.
I don't care if you stressed. I don't care if you had a long day at work. I don't care. Sometimes they don't care if you don't feel good. They like, I need sex. And if you don't want me to cheat, then this is something you have to provide. And that is such an unsafe environment, because there are times that not just women, but men are also feeling like they just don't have the capacity to show up in a sexual manner. And we have to learn how to respect that. And that sometimes, and most times, is enough to make a person feel safe, that when they are ready to show up in that space, that they can. I think that's just so important. I think it's so beautiful too.
Yeah, I remember a Martin stand-up. I forgot which one. It could have been You So Crazy way back in the day. And he was just saying, as a man, sometimes you just want to get in and get out. Meaning, you may not want to always go to the 50-point game. And sometimes when we're not in that space, emotionally, financially, we may not feel like our best version of ourselves. We'll go to that space if she wanted, but we need confidence. We need some of that bravado, some of that male machismo, all these things that kind of get, SHIT'd on. That's necessary in that space. We need some of that alpha energy. And if we in that space where we don't feel our best version of ourselves in life at large, we may feel the need to taper off and not go to that space because we can't give you a 50 right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's certain, we'll still do it though, because our wife, our girlfriend is saying, I need that. And we're not really able to compartmentalize or speak up for ourselves in these moments. Baby, I'm not really in that pocket. And the other part of it is I was proud of myself that, I don't feel like I've done this a lot throughout our relationship. I've had moments where maybe internally I felt it, but there was no rejection in that moment. I didn't feel rejected, right? It was an understanding. She not in that capacity. And really, it just felt good to give you that gesture of, look, I'm going to dress up for you now, too, going forward. You know what I'm saying? A lot of men in that moment would have felt the way.
Yeah.
A lot of men in that moment, that would have turned into something else that could have lasted that day, days, weeks, that could have ended them up in therapy with me.
Right.
Because you supposed to just do this right now because I'm putting this vibration out, right?
Yeah.
So that leads me to the next question. What makes you feel safest? Because a lot of what we talked about is kind of leading up to the moment. What makes you feel safest and freest during sex?
That's a good question. I want to say something right before I go into
Okay.
that. The one thing that I want to say is specifically with women or men, that regardless of how you are fearful your partner will respond, you are allowed to say yes or no. A lot of self-betrayal comes even when you are married, when you say yes, when you really want to say no, when you're not in the mood, but it's something that you do simply to please the other person. That can start to make you actually hate the act.
Yeah.
It can make you resentful of the act and resentful of the person. So there has to be a balance of you showing up in an authentic way that allows that person to get what they need, but also having the balance of allowing you to say, not tonight. I don't feel it tonight. And you don't even have to have a reason why. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. Sometimes you aren't in the mental, the spiritual, or the emotional space to give that level of energy. And it is okay if you choose to say no.
Yeah, I want to say something in response to that real quick, too. We got to normalize our partner not even needing a reason.
Yeah.
You don't have to give me a valid reason outside. I don't feel like it. You know what I'm saying? That's enough. And whatever I got to do with my horny ass, and I'm not going to go masturbate. I'm not going to waste the energy. We conserve our energy for each other to a high degree, right? But that should be enough. That's part of the sexual safety. We kind of overlook that we got to have reasons and alibis and excuses for why we don't want to do something.
To not give your body.
For energy that's that powerful, that consumes that much of our attention, our thoughts. And when we go into that space, there's so much, like you said, insecurities that come up, the pressure of needing to be perfect. I don't want to always do that. It's beyond just the payoff of we're going to bust our nuts at the end of the day. It's a lot that leads up to that day once you get in the act. So if you just don't feel like it, that's enough for me. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody kind of preface that. And I'm doubling down on that. I don't think I've ever heard any man just say, I don't need a reason. You don't want to? That's enough.
Right. And the other part of that is when someone says no, not taking it personally as if it has anything to do with you. And then also being clear that sometimes when you say no, it will stir up some of our own wounds a lot of us, like for me, I have a abandonment wounds from the past. So it's not uncommon that when you tell a person no, that abandonment wounds may show up. And that's okay. If that person responds in a way that is confusing to you when you set a standard for how you want to show up in your body, that's okay. That's their work to do. That's their work to do on abandonment or rejection. But the fact that their abandonment wounds and their rejection wounds are triggered, that is not an invitation for you to go back on your no and now say yes.
And there's so much unsafety in the masculine community as far as sex. Like, we saw so many unsafe comments in a response to the viral video. But men will hear me say that. This clip may go out and go viral, and you're going to see a bunch of dudes in there calling me a simp. Right now, she's supposed to do this, that, and the third. That's your wife. We don't a lot of times realize as men how many times we participated in emotional sexual abuse via self-betrayal that women may not speak up and say, I'm not really in that space right now. But if we don't have the wherewithal as men to investigate, to ask the questions, to let, I don't feel like it just be enough and not be putting the pressure on our women. It's been so many times, probably the brothers that's out here that's going to watch this, a lot of y'all have participated in a violation of your own woman and you didn't know. And on a level of the sacral chakra, which houses emotion, houses sexual energy, houses creativity, there are vibrations going out now from that woman's sacral chakra, from her womb, from her yoni, that the yoni is saying, oh, your man, your husband, the yoni don't know man, husband. It's this particular point of energy has contributed to us being violated. We need to protect. And before you know it, vibrations and chemical reactions and thoughts and beliefs is going out that matriculate into her not being as attracted to you no more. That matriculate into her not wanting to have sex as much no more. She may not even be able to connect the dots both ways. You may not be cognizant enough to understand, damn, why she don't want to get it in as much as she did, because you may not have had the wherewithal to understand the moments where you may have participated in this violation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So going back to the question, what makes you feel most safe and most free during sex? With your husband.
With my husband.
Not these other scoop ball heads you be dealing with. And we're not poly, y'all. We're going to get to the poly conversation at a certain point.
Yes, Lord. Yeah. Please stop asking us that, y'all. I think what makes me feel the most safe is how slow you take me. Like how you really take your time and you make sure that you still kiss me. You make sure that you still kiss my back. And it's just those moments where things are like, you can tell it's really thoughtful. And I've told you before that there's been times where we're making love and I'm like, this man really loves me. Like I can tell just based on how that process is going that you really love me. And that makes me feel safe. When you speak to me, when you talk to me while we're having our moment, that makes me feel safe because I'm engaging and it allows me to open up and it allows me to self-express and it allows us to role play and that feels fun. And when there's fun, which you always make sure there's always a fun component, when there's like that fun component or that expressive component, it allows me to engage and not be in here because my mind is wired to perform. It reminds me this is not a performative moment at all, and that just softens my entire body and opens my body up as well. And then there's times where you'll ask, like, do you like this? Does this feel good? Like you'll allow me to be a part of what is happening. So now we're creating together in this sexual experience. And it's not just, I'm just there, you just getting everything you need and that's it. It's really us romanticizing the whole aspect of our sexual experience.
I think that also goes back to us being able to have conversations and appreciation for the difference in our sexual histories. Our culture when it comes to the bedroom. When I was out here moving and shaking, and even in relationships, like the TV would be on.
Yeah.
Movies is playing. You know, we go on Netflix and chill and eventually find our way into that arena, and I ain't gonna turn the TV off because now I'm focused.
Yeah.
That don't fly for you. Right? And the first time we was able to engage where you turn the TV off, that was different.
Yeah.
That was different for me. I never even told you this, right? But that was different for me. I don't know if insecure is the right word, but it just kind of had me like on heightened levels of awareness that I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
Like the buffer of the sound of the movie would kind of be like protection.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so to not have that, it very quickly turned from, damn, this is new. Like, what do I do with this? And I don't want to tell you to turn it back on because obviously that's what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
But very quickly within minutes, I'm like, oh, no, this is lit. I
Yeah.
can really hear her voice right now. I appreciate silence anyway, but silence in a sexual space and I have no music or TV playing. I was able to realize something I never got the opportunity before to realize, that I love that space too. So you being able to be authentic in that, and then also the safety that I'm able to bring to the table, both of us, being the fact that, you know, we're not on porn every day.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't do porn like
Yeah.
that. I'm not entertaining other energies, no shade to nobody that does. But when we go into that space, it's the exclusivity factor, the satiation I'm looking for, and being able to experience not just my wife, but this is my only access by choice. I don't want none of these other women, right? No shade to y'all. This is my only access to feminine energy in this way. So the buildup of anticipation on top of the fast that we do, and I know you can feel there's no other feminine energies blocking my pathways when we in that space.
Yeah.
It's literally just me and you. And then being able to feel safe in those spaces for me to just try shit.
Yeah.
Right? Last time, you know, dudes would say, let me give you a massage, right? And you get 20 seconds of massage as a woman and then he going straight to it. It kind of just came to me in that moment. Like, nah, like you love when I, you know, accommodate for the stress that's on your muscles all the time. Like you look like you all put together in the gym all the time, but you do so many things and you carry so much energy, it gets stored in your muscles.
Yeah.
So I'm always coming behind you and making sure in that moment, it's like, nah, she got the lingerie on, she looking good, the moon hitting her. Let me actually give her a real massage before we even go into that space.
Yeah.
Massage lasted a good 20 minutes before we did anything else, which is also opening up. So for me to be able to try things, and like I said, last thing before I give it back to you, me being as vocal as I am, and just watching you, not forcing you, not ever asking you, can you talk back to me? Me being able to talk and you not having an issue with that is enough. Not over talking either, because some of y'all niggas be doing too much from what I hear behind closed doors, right? But me being able to be free in that space, not forcing you to do it, but all of a sudden you coming around the bend, let's say 6, 7, 8 months ago, like, oh, she talking back? That's what we doing now? And now we're being to the point where certain words you didn't want to use before, now you use freely, confidently.
Yeah.
When do you feel like, or how did that shift come about? Because that's not something we talked about. You just started reciprocating that energy.
I know. Yeah. You know, I think it's just the more comfortable I'm becoming with you. And I think that when a person is in a marriage, it's assumed that there aren't areas that you have to grow. People say, come to me healed, figure out all your stuff by yourself. Come to me once you have everything figured out. And me and my sexuality is still an aspect that I'm still growing in. I'm still learning. I'm still learning what I like. I'm still learning how to express myself in a confident way without feeling bad. And I think saying certain words were directly connected to my innocence. And to a large degree, there were many times in my past where I said yes when I really wanted to say no. So there were certain words that I wouldn't even allow myself to say, like the D word, the P word. When people are like, oh, let's F, I would never, it just sounded so vulgar to me.
You say, no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, it just sounded so vulgar to me, where these words just roll off of people's lips. And I think unconsciously it was a way to still maintain some of my innocence in ways that I had given it away. And I recognize now I don't have to hold on to my innocence, and that I am extremely innocent, and I'm allowed to express myself with words that I've never given myself permission to say. And our marriage is just such a safe space, and it's a comfortable space. I'm still blossoming. So even us being 5 years in, there has been room for me to still blossom, still open my wings, still learn, still evolve. So when you hear it 6 months just 6 months ago, me starting to say the D word or the P word. It's practice. It's like practice of coming out of my shell. Like, do I feel comfortable with this? And then maybe going back for a little bit, but coming out like, no, I actually felt okay saying those words.
And I liked it.
Yeah, you did.
A couple. No, I'm saying you like saying.
Yeah, I
you
do.
Be walking around the house all day, dropping these joints. Two things to what you said too. I think it correlates to your overall relationship with being open to conflict at large. You being open to diving into what you may have perceived as your darkness, your shadow, your anger. I know you writing a book on anger. We can't say the title yet. But that work that you've done outside of anything to do with what we do in the bedroom has also allowed you to be more open with your shadow, your darkness.
Very true.
You know, things that may be opposite or alternate of your innocence. So the work we do in our life correlates to what we're going to be able to experience in the bedroom. And then you also brought up a great point I haven't heard too many people talk about. We talk about, you know, what is it? Freaking the lady in the streets?
Freaking the sheets.
Freaking the sheets. Men will run through, you know, the thoughts or whatever you want to call it, but they have a different standard of what they want in an actual long-term partner and a wife. I've heard men say, I don't even want her to give me head. Like, I'm going to go cheat and do that with the other one, but I don't want my wife to be in that space. There's something to be said for that vast range, that dichotomy when you're dealing with a good girl, a good woman who still has innocence left in her spirit, to be able to navigate those two poles and understand when the innocence needs to take precedent, when the naughty bad girl want to come to the forefront, and how to navigate the intermediate space, and how to do that dance when both of them merge and converge in those moments. That's a dance that a man has to be in tune with his own feminine energy, to be able to understand how to navigate that. Because most of us, we draw that line in the sand. I might have my wife over here and I don't want her to do that, or the opposite. To have both in the same person, in the conversations that have to happen to be able to do that in a healthy way. A lot of men have not had that practice because we've separated them so much until we get to a wife who may still have some of that purity and innocence left.
Yeah, and I think for me, there was so much, shame isn't the right word, but fear of
judgment.
Possibly, but judgment of God. You know,
okay.
The way that people talk about God had me in a lot of predicaments, because it made me so fearful of being myself, out of fear that God would get mad and send me to hell. So even the aspect of the good girl, I spent my entire life playing the role of the good girl, to the point where it was only 2 years ago where I recognized this ain't even real.
Right.
Like, I do cuss people out, and if I don't, I want to.
Like in and out too. Yeah.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
all of these things.
I'm all of these things. And that aspect of playing the good girl, holding on to the last bits of my innocence. If I just hold on to the fact that I don't say the D word, I don't say the P word, and I don't say stuff like F me and stuff like that, that's that good girl still trying to hold on to the last bit of her innocence, and too afraid to acknowledge, but I'm all the other things as well. And I think the safety comes in where I am allowed to be the full spectrum of who I am. There's a lot of innocence present, but there's a lot of lingerie and ready to get to it present as well. A lot of confidence that I'm still learning to exude, even the confidence of initiating. I'm still learning to exude. So I think a lot of men, I hear a lot of women say men don't even really like that in relationships.
Right.
Even when it comes to BBLs, you hear women say, y'all tout this, but you don't really want that to be in a relationship. So it confuses a lot of women. And then it's like, well, why don't you just do what is a natural self-expression to you? Dress how you want to dress, speak how you want to speak, have sex the way that you want to have sex, nurture your sensuality the way that you want to. And the man that loves you, he will adjust. And the other aspect is, that last part is, men, I'm prefacing this to men because I know that mostly women betray their word when it comes to pleasing their partner. But if men just start to ask women, does this feel safe to you? Does this feel comfortable for you? what ways can I help to
Talk
make
to
you
your camera on
feel,
this one,
yeah, what ways can I help to make you feel more in your sensuality? What ways can I make sure that you feel more safe in our union so you can open up to me more sexually? What ways can I just nurture the woman that you are to where this is a intimate environment we can have? And are there other things that we need to explore in our intimacy that don't just look like sexual exchanges? Because there's infinite ways to explore intimacy, but sometimes we'll have men that are not open to those other forms of intimacy. They only want sex, and it's up to women to kind of stand firm in what you need and acknowledging there are other ways that I want to experience intimacy, holding their men accountable to ask for those things, and men rising to the occasion to explore those things as well. I feel like when both parties are open to environments that is pure safety, that means if you don't feel like you want to have sex tonight, then I honor that. I don't just accept it and move on. I honor that this is not what you want to do with your body tonight. And then also I acknowledge that it has absolutely nothing to do with me. This is what is working best for you in the moment. And I get to support you in you reclaiming your energy for yourself. That's your energy. I don't get to always have access to that. And then the other aspect of that is, if you don't want to have sex tonight, what is another way that we can still share energy? Maybe we can go cook together in the kitchen. Maybe we can clean at the end of the night in the kitchen. Game night. You have the cards that ask questions, a movie night.
Meditation together.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful things you can do to still share energy that don't require one of the partners to betray themselves.
Yeah, a few things to that as we wrap up. I feel just as good when I know you're not in that space, or you don't even really have to tell me. I just know.
Yeah.
But if you did, I feel just as good being able to honor that space as I do when I put up 50.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As I do when you pay, you got 36,000 on your tax. I'm like, hey, baby, take a couple grand.
Absolutely,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I feel
Thank you
just
for that,
as good. Yeah, I got you. I feel just as good in that space to be able to hold that space for you outside of me getting the gratification as I do when I get it. And I think men don't have a lot of practice with it. They haven't been able to actually experience what that does to their heart, what that does to their system, to understand there's still incentive on that side of me not getting none. Just as much of a provider and as a protector as you may feel in these other arenas, I guarantee you, if you can feel good about honoring that space with your woman, you'll start to incentivize that and realize it's something for me to get out of this.
Yeah.
I feel like a better man. I feel more confident. I feel more strong. I see her reaction. We may not get it in tonight, but 3 days down the line, after I done held this space, you're going to see that thing going to get thrown a little bit different 3 days from that point. So,
and you can self-explore to see what comes up for you within you that's meant for you to take a look
at. Another thing to what you were saying, there are different versions of your partner that you're going to explore sexually depending on where y'all are in your journey. The courting phase sex is going to be different from 3-4 years in sex. Because you got to think about what's involved in the sacral chakra, like I mentioned earlier, the creativity, the emotions, the sexual prowess, right? First 6 months to a year, that courting and y'all get it in, it's just fresh. It's just new. Oh, yeah, desire is also in the sacral chakra. So it's pure, unbridled desire that first few months. Emotions have not started to make their way to the surface via y'all being the portals that are sharing this energy together. So it's just going to be thoughtless. I ain't got to think about emotions. Hey, what you doing? I'm trying to come see you after the club. It's that vibration.
Yeah.
But when y'all got stain in the game, when y'all got emotions that have now come to surface via y'all being mirrors to each other, it's other things to navigate besides just desire. And in those first 6 months, it may have been real easy as a man to get her to where she was supposed to be going. She may have been squirting, coming 5-6 times, and whatever you want to call it. And then it shifts, and you think you may be doing something wrong, or she's not as attracted to you no more, or y'all are drifting apart. What really is, the new version of this sexual partner has showed up, because now we in a different sector of our relationship that has more to navigate through than just purely the desire of the sacral chakra. And we got to be able to learn these versions of ourselves now. A lot of times we don't take that into account as men. And then the last thing I say, and then I give it to you to close up, the sexual self-advocacy is super important. I think women, I would love women to step up to the plate more to let men know when you don't like something.
Yeah.
And this is part of why I asked so many questions. We was having a conversation with our brother Mike the other day, and we was talking about the verbal cues during sex. And we may feel, I've been with this woman 5 years. She know what I like. She know what I do. I don't have to ask. Even in the penetration, right? It may be certain days you tighter than others.
Yeah.
Based on your own chemistry, how far away or close you are to your cycle, what's going on in your mind, right?
Yeah.
So it may have been a lot easier to work myself in a week ago as opposed to today. And if I notice what I did last week may cause you some, you know what I mean, some shift, or damn, did that hurt? I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask in just a straightaway way. I could ask in a sexy way, right?
Yeah.
Is this cool? Can I keep doing it?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of my things I do all the time, you know, with my little Barry White voice when I'm in the moment. I'll ask it in a sexy way, but I'm still investigating. I'm still reading the room. I'm still figuring out which sexual version of my wife is present in this moment. So I make sure I don't violate, and I'm not just banking on what has worked the past 5 years.
Yeah. I love that.
Anything in response as we close out?
No. I think that's all.
I covered it?
Yeah. I think that's it.
You can't keep talking to me like that. It's going to be some furniture moving in this mug.
I want to invite people to practice having sexual experiences with your partner with nothing on. When you express that to some people like that we're
They
close
get weirded
to,
out like, what?
they were so shocked. And I think people will be surprised at how it nurtures the intimacy. Because when you have TVs on, the subconscious is open. So you're not just taking in your partner, you're also taking in what the messages are on TV, the frequency of the sound of the TV. So you don't even have the ability to be in alignment with the sexual creation that you're being a part of. It's just fragmented energies, distorted energies. And then you have energetic free radicals that are coming through the TV that you're bringing in. You may be watching a fighting movie. Now you got that in your spirit. You may be having a movie about murder. Now you got that in your spirit. A war movie, and it's in your spirit while you're trying to have intimate sexual experience with your partner. I mean, that when you are having a sexual experience, God is present. And so you have all of these other things going on that are completely taking God out of the equation. So it's important that you at least practice not listening to music, not watching TV, not having on the radio, podcast, nothing. Just allowing yourself to share intimacy and energy with another person. But I recognize a lot of people don't do that because they're afraid of being seen. They want to be loved, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be acknowledged. But when the time comes for them to finally be able to have those things, they don't know how to receive it. So they distract themselves with TV, with music, whereas you have a person right there with you that is willing to love you, see you, hear you, acknowledge you, but you got on the TV distracting yourself from feeling that, allowing that sexual experience to be healing. That can heal so many wounds, or at least aid in healing so many wounds, but you got other energies blocking you. So I encourage people, the next time you have a sexual experience with your partner, somebody that you love, somebody that you trust, and that is deserving of you sharing your body with them, turn off the TV, turn off the music, and just allow yourself to be seen, allow yourself to be heard, allow yourself to show up big, allow yourself to embody your moans, embody all of the experiences and the sensations, and be present 100% with yourself, your body, your partner, and his body.
And when you do that, you find yourself in a realm of extrasensory perception. Things you may not have even noticed while the TV was on, or your favorite R&B list was playing. Now it's all you notice, right? I remember one time it was a full moon, and you know we got the windows and all that, and just the way the moon was just hitting off of your skin in that moment, I just had to stop. Like, yo, I wish you could see your skin right now.
Yeah,
probably wouldn't notice that if it was all this other stuff going on. So what you just mentioned, and you tied it together beautifully, it's part of that spiritual sexual hygiene.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, you know, is it clean? Do it stink? Did you shave your balls and all of that, right? But there's a level of energy and sexual and spiritual hygiene that's involved in the act and what we do previous to coming into the act. If I know I'm heavy and I'm convoluted mentally, I'm not even going to invite you into that space because I don't want to put that over on into you, right? So yeah, I think we covered all our points. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Is Me Again. I was about to say the old name, but shout out to y'all that came here via remembering me. It's all love. And if y'all got any questions, if y'all got things that y'all would like to double down on in an extension of this episode, because it's such a big conversation, please hit us up, shoot us DMs,
comment, like, subscribe, give us as much feedback as possible. That'll really help us know what direction. If y'all have a topic y'all want us to speak about, send it to us. We're very responsive on social media, so just send it to us. We'll see it.
And keep in mind, again, with every episode that goes up, we will be having a follow-up conversation on our IG, on our YouTube simultaneously every Wednesday. I know this is a big topic. This is probably going to be a great one to have community talk with. So make sure y'all hit us up so y'all can be involved in that conversation as well.
Yep.
Yeah, y'all. Episode 2 in the books. God Is Me Again. Like, subscribe, comment, favorite, share. Send to your aunties, your cousins, your homie that's in jail because he still got the phone. He's still watching the podcast.
Not him getting his phone confiscated.
Hold us down, y'all. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye, y'all.